are, Birmingham. Birmingham is the main city in the state of Alabama, and as many people imagine, the name was indeed inspired by Birmingham in England. Many founders had English descent. Two things made Birmingham be very well known here in the United States. One was the production of iron ore and steel in the end of the 19th century and beginning of the 20th. And the second was the civil rights movement in the 1950s and 60s. That's when African Americans fought for equal rights. And I'm here to understand this very disturbing moment of American history. Before getting started, a good brunch to give us some energy. Who can resist chicken and waffles? This restaurant is located in the TJ Tower, one of the most historic buildings in Birmingham. And look at how beautiful it is. Look at the details. This is the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute. It's where the reality shock starts about how things were here in the United States until the 60s.
Yellow, black, brown, and white were all precious in his sight. And this brick pattern is taken right from that. You see the yellow, the black, the brown, and the white. So we come to rosemary. And this is one of the things they use to try to wake people's memories up when they've lost their memory. And it's here because it represents the fact that you should remember everything you see when you go inside. This indicates the idea.
They have real life examples here showing how life was for black people and for white people. It's really shocking.
No matter how hard you worked, no matter how smart you were, no matter how beneficial you were to the company, if you were an African American, you could only rise so high. What these two classrooms show us is the different facilities. What these classrooms don't show us is here in Birmingham, education was segregated. The Negro City schools only went to the 10th grade. If you were an African American, your future was working in that steel mill, that iron ore mine, or one of these places. If you're African American female, your future lie in domestic work, cooking, and things of that nature. So you didn't need to go past the 10th grade in high school because you weren't going to go to college. The black splotches indicate where African Americans were legally allowed to live. Blacks were only given 11% of the residential zoned space in the city, although they made up 43% of the population. And so what happens is any house is going to be used regardless of your financial ability to pay for something better.
That's because white people were bombing properties that belonged to African Americans.
When the bus would drive off from the terminal, they had a curtain that they would pull between the middle of the bus, and black people sat behind the curtain and white people sat in front of the curtain. They used to keep people from voting with things like literacy tests. They would ask you to recite the United States Constitution. Or they'd ask you stupid stuff like, how many grains of sand are on the seashore? How many bubbles can you find in a bar of soap? How many seeds in a watermelon? And nobody can answer these questions. You have something known as the grandfather clause. Because some of the questions, like I said, nobody can answer them. But if you were white, you didn't have to answer them. Because according to the grandfather clause, if your grandfather had voted, then you can vote. And if your grandfather hadn't voted, you have to pass this test.
Free at last! Free at last! Thank God of man! We are free at last!
The real bars of the cell where Martin Luther King was arrested here in Birmingham. Why do people throw money there?
People throw money in there. It started organically. One of these days I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but I always joke that people are trying to raise Dr. Martin Luther King's bail. But in actuality, people treat it like a wishing well. And so they throw change and coins and different things like that. And I guess in hopes that we develop a better society.
I'm very shocked. This square here in front of the Institute is a well-known place for demonstrations, and it was like this also during the civil rights movement. So much so that some of the worst repressions, some of those images that Americans remember to this date happened here.
These water hoses, it took 77 pounds of pressure per square inch at a minimum for them to function. If it hits you and you weigh 140, 130, you're flying. It takes you right off your feet. These 4 fountains represent the change to the 4 corners of the earth that started right here in Birmingham, Alabama. And in the center, we see that the park is a place of revolution and reconciliation.
The tiles and the colors, look at that. Also continue here.
When I think about this, I think about the fact that history repeats itself even when you don't want it to. Without forgiveness, there's no way to move into the future. You can't hold those things, and because that hate will eat you up as well. What we like to call the original Iron Man.
That's Vulcan, the world's largest cast iron statue. Now we're switching topics a little from the past related to the civil rights movement to the past related to iron and steel production. Vulcan in the Roman mythology was a god of fire, but what does this have to do with anything, right? This symbolizes the origins of Birmingham. Vulcan, the god of fire, the city of iron and steel.
One of the things Vulcan means to Birmingham is it meant a lifeline at a very tenuous time in this city's history. Birmingham produced iron and steel. During the Great Depression, there was not a demand for the things that Birmingham produced. So there are a lot of Birminghamians who were suffering tremendously. This park provided work for people in Birmingham during the Great Depression when they needed it terribly.
There's also a museum here explaining a little bit of this past.
You have a store, the company store, and you would be paid sometimes in cash, but some steel mills wouldn't pay you cash. They would pay you something known as script. And script was like a piece of coin, but you could only spend it in the company store. And so what's happening is the money's being recycled. It never leaves the steel mill.
Look at this!
You're really trying yourself now, aren't you?
Are you guys seeing all the way down there? It is so beautiful. Can you believe we hadn't even done the check-in yet? We're at the Homewood Suites by Hilton near University of Alabama. And now I'm going to get some rest before going out for dinner. Wow, look at the size of this room. Look at Vulcan up there. Look at this house. We're having a special dinner here tonight. So we're now in this really nice neighborhood, and Chef John Hall is preparing a private dinner for us. And I'm here in the kitchen now, seeing if I can learn something. John, is the menu a surprise?
Yes, yes. Yeah, each course is a surprise.
I want exactly to capture you. Very few times I have the chance to congratulate the chef and tell him how much I love the food. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you.
How did you decide being a chef?
My dad and both my uncles were great cooks. I just love being in the kitchen with them and my mom and my grandparents, and I just wanted something that I love doing every day. Every day is different.
Thank you very much for watching. In the next video, day 2 here in Birmingham. Are you liking it so far? Then subscribe to my channel.